Hey, you see that integrated circuit sitting there? More than an integrated circuit. It's really a sim. It's like a module. You know what modules do? Some of you do. You know, look at how many little, see those little lines on there? Those little gold lines? Those are connections. See that little tiny thing, right? Gosh. What do I have, a pen or something? See this little things, these little dinky things right here? That's the head of a pen, a regular writing pen, right? Those connections are about as big as the chips we use nowadays. See the size of that chip? This is old technology, man. The new ones are about as big as these little tiny things in here. That's how big they are. They're just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until pretty soon we're going to be able to have a biosphere existence somewhere like this, and we can actually have little tiny farmers growing integrated circuits, because they won't be made out of metal. They'll be made out of material that's like plants and stuff, you know, little amoebas running around on here. That's where we're headed. You know where I'm headed? I'm heading to old age. I got another challenge for you. See, this is intelligent design right here. This is obvious intelligent design. Somebody made this. Somebody made this sim right here. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this didn't just come into existence. It took a lot of thought and a lot of effort on somebody's part to come up with something like this. You know, and it wasn't just a guy said, you know what, I'm gonna make a sim. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in this metal box and I'll attach a typewriter to it, and you know, we're gonna start, you know, we'll talk all over the world. Nah, it happened over a period of time. Like, this group of people built something, and they expanded on it, and they expanded on it, and they expanded on it, and eventually it got to here. See, I'm like 180 years old, and I can tell you, I used to work on computers when they had tubes in them. Okay, not like a TV tube. I'm talking about actually something about this size, only it's glass. It's kind of like a light bulb, and it has like 5 or 6 pins on the bottom, and you plug it into high voltage and it lights up. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen an old black and white Twilight movie, but Twilight Zone, it's like that. They're big hot tubes, and they get real hot, and they actually attract dust, and the dust gathers on the tube, and it just gets all old and sticky by the time I get to it, because what I did was repair them a long time ago. And it's no fun to replace a tube. First of all, it's like 500 degrees. You go, oh, I think that's a bad tube. You've got to let that thing cool down before you pull it out of whatever it's in. And actually, it was a predecessor to the transistor. Transistor is a semiconductor. You know, California had a little thing going on with semiconductors for a while, and Silicon Valley. And a transistor is like a little top hat. It has, typically it'll have 3 pins on it, or I should say like 3 legs. It looks like a little spaceman, and you plug those 3 legs in, and you apply voltage to this one, and the other 2 shoot out at you, and it would turn stuff on like a switch. That's what they did. They replaced the tubes. This original computer would take up a whole entire room, and 5 guys 24/7 there working to keep it happening. And it, you know what a boot device is? A boot record. You know what the original boot record was? We called it a bootstrap. You know, where's the bootstrap for this? Well, a bootstrap was a piece of paper, man, and it had holes punched in it, and basically the way that those holes were punched would tell the computer how to boot up. And you actually had to put that on there and wrap it around, and it was on gears, and it would spin, and as it would spin, an LED, a light emitting diode would read through the hole. Aha, a hole, and by reading those 1s and 0s, he could determine the code, so to speak, of the bootstrap, and realize I need to go over there to get smart, and it would go over there and boot up from a bootstrap. That's where that term came from. I worked on those. That's how old I am. Anyways, tubes, you know, they went to transistors, then transistors went to integrated circuits, and you know, they're like, these are gosh, I can't tell you this. I'm just going to average it out. Let's see, 10, 20, 30, maybe 50 pins on one side and 50 pins on the other. And that's just where my little pinky, there's 100 pins on that. Well, the first integrated circuits that came out had 14 pins on them, not 100. And they were 4 times as thick as that. And they were registers. They're ones and zeros. And they come out with AND gates and NAND gates, you know, and the AND gate and the NAND gate is binary logic. And basically what it says is you have 3 pins, and if you have a 1 on this pin, you'll get a 1 on the output. If you have 1 coming in here, you got a 1 going out there. And so just pass along binary information, because binary information is how computers work, on ones and zeros. It's either on or it's off. There's no indifferent. And that's binary code, and they convert that to hexadecimal code, which we use the decimal code, you know, 1 or the whatever. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, in octal, there's only 8. Hexadecimal, there's 16. So you can say 8, 9, no 10. It's not the decimal system. It's hexadecimal, so it's going to be alpha, you know, Bravo, Charlie, you know, A, B, C, D through F to get up to 15, because 0 through 15 is 16. Why? I can't tell you, but that's how you do it. Hollerith code comes out, punch codes in the card, so forth, all that stuff. I did all that stuff. And it took a whole entire room, even with integrated circuits, a whole data processing center and 16 operators all day long and all night long to process payroll for some big business. Because that's where computers were. They were in big businesses. They weren't in houses. You know, the normal common guy didn't have a computer. He was lucky if he had a Selectric typewriter. Okay? And maybe a pager, you know. That's about it. So they were mostly in like big commercial environments, and all those people that ran all that equipment, you got this big huge machine, and the only thing it does is interpret Hollerith code on an 80-column card. And so they'll take a whole stack of these cards, that's your payroll, and they put them in here, and they sort through the letter A, then they sort through the letter B, then they sort through the letter C, and eventually they got all the cards sorted, and then they punch them in another machine, and they process all this data. It's very manual labor intense. But now we can do all that stuff on an icon. You go to your desktop, and you move this little thing around. It's got a little arrow on it, and it goes up. And I could tell you a story about Microsoft, but I'll skip that for now. But anyways, you go to an icon, and you just click on that icon, and it goes and processes and does all this stuff. It used to take a whole room of people to do that in a data processing center on very expensive computers. In my lifetime, I saw that. Okay, in my lifetime. I'll tell you a true story. I went to fix one of these old unit record machines one time at a Navy base in California. And the plug looked kind of sketchy, okay? It's a big plug, and I needed to unplug the machine. And this old lady, way older than me, I was just, you know, a young kid at the time, but I mean, she was old. She looked at me and go, "What are you doing?" I said, "I need to take this machine apart." She goes, "That machine has been plugged in over there in that spot since World War II. Oh, joy. And I get to work on it. And that's a true story, man. I mean, that stuff was way older than me, but why did I say that? It's just because that was the environment back then, okay? And now it's changed. You got the icon. All this stuff we're talking about is the advancement of technology over a period of time. And I'm telling you this right here is intelligent design. This did not happen by chance. What are the chances of this piece of material right here with logic on it, very complex? Do you think that this is as complex as my body? Like, I got teeth, I can think, you know, I got eyes, I can move around, I can eat. You know, I have a brain. This thing here is just a piece of something. It's not alive. But yeah, look how complicated it is. What do you think the chances are of this coming into existence all by itself, with no intelligent creation behind it? I mean, you could take a bunch of metal and pieces and stuff and like throw them against the wall, and they're just going to scatter. But if you keep throwing them against the wall, let me try it again. Let me try it again. If you did that like 60 billion times, eventually they might land because the wind blew by just right or whatever, but it might just land and at least look like this, you know, even though it didn't work. Well, we throw it another 60 billion times. Eventually, one chance in 50 trillion, it might end up looking like this just by me arbitrarily, randomly throwing it against the wall. But I seriously doubt it. And I seriously doubt that this whole universe, not only is my body complex, if I go into a microscope and I get smaller and smaller and smaller, how small can I go before I can't go any smaller? Please tell me. Because whatever you show me can be divided in half. Or I can expand out the other way and go into space, and someone will tell me, well, yeah, it wraps around in time. Oh yeah, right, that's theory. Great. Wraps in time. Well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. That's beyond my comprehension. As far as I know, space is big, a whole lot bigger than an atom. So that's how big. I've got to take something that big and throw it against the wall enough times to create our physical realm. Come on now. How, you know, if I did it 1 trillion times, if I threw something against the wall 1 trillion times, 50 trillion times, we could multiply the national debt in America by 1 billion. And it still would, there's not enough opportunity or chances for that to, oh, hey, look, it landed like the physical universe with physical laws and everything. Give me a break. Talk about reason or lack of it. Sheesh. Well, there's something I want to show you. Real quick, I have a simple challenge for you. It's right here. I'm going to show it to you. See if I can move this out of the way for a sec. You know, it sucks having a camera right here where you want something else. But see, it's this right here. It's just a little tiny challenge. I don't know if you can see that or not. Basically, it's saying, where do we get a year from? And you get a year from what? From the Earth revolving around the sun. It goes all the way around one time. That's a year. So my next question is, okay, you can prove that, right? We can prove that because the Earth goes around the sun. All right. So the next question is, where do we get a month? And the answer would be, from a logical person, here's the Earth, and the moon goes around the Earth, and once it goes around one complete revolution, that's a month. I mean, come on. All right, then you broke that riddle. Let's go to the next one. To what makes a day? So, oh, you know, I mean, here's the sun, here's the Earth, and the Earth is rotating on its axis, and once it goes around all the way, that's a day. Okay, relevant to its rotation and so forth, you can count it. So, the one I haven't been able to figure out is where the week comes from. Okay, because we use month, day, year, and week. And I just haven't figured that one out. And I put that challenge out there to at least 100 guys. Okay? No, nothing. I even asked, this pastor lives near me, you know, and he was telling me about some of the things he gets involved in. It's incredible, man. I have a lot of respect for those guys. Like you're working with a dude who's got a gun against his head, trying to convince him not to commit suicide, or arriving after the person killed himself, trying to console the family members and stuff like that. Those guys got it rough, man. But anyway, we were talking about different things down at the pool where he was swimming, and his kids were swimming, and my kids too. And I just asked him that riddle I just told you. You know, I said, where does this come from? Where does that come from? And he had the answers. And when I asked him, where does the week come from? He said, well, yeah, it probably comes from, it's more likely that, I'm sure they know. I'm sure they have an answer. I got him. I did give him some clues and so forth. But what do you think? What do you think? That's what I want to know. What do you think?